I think there is no other way than to join forces with other great entrepreneurs that have built great products out there.
And I think maybe it's also a bit in the DNA of Austrians. The Habsburger story, where they actually won a lot of land through marrying.
Welcome to evertalks, the podcast that moves you. Today we have some really special guests here, two of the founders of Eversports. And I'm really happy that we can talk today about how the company started and how this whole journey began. And before we start, maybe the two of you can introduce themselves and maybe also say what is your favorite sport that you like to do. Starting with you.
Yeah, my name is Hanno. My favorite sport is hard to tell. I love quite a few sports. Yoga is the one I practice the most lately, but I also love paddle tennis, and kite surfing, and skiing if possible. And there is snow, and the weekend is available.
It's been a challenge lately.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, my name is Stefan. Hello, great to be on the podcast. My favorite sport has always been ball sports. When growing up, I loved every kind of it, no matter if it's football, tennis, beach volleyball. But the older I grow, the more I try to mix in also things like yoga, Pilates, meditation, because I see that this helps me staying agile and staying also in a shape that I can continue doing ball sports, hopefully until an older age.
That makes sense. I should probably do the same. Let's talk a little bit about the whole story. How did Eversports start? Eversports already exists now for almost 11 years, I would say. And how do you guys come up with the idea, the vision, and how did it change, like from 11 years ago to where we're today?
Yeah, I think Eversports was founded one day earlier than Stefan's company, Sport Me, at the time. I started thinking about Eversports, or some building blocks of Eversports already some 5 years earlier, when I was still based in Carinthia. So at that time, WordPress and custom CMS, was that content management systems, were kind of new, and I thought it would be great to bring together all the information about different types of sports on one platform. For example, when I started to play badminton, that this sport was provided by one specific club that belongs to one roof federation, but then there are other clubs offering it as well, and then there are commercial sports center offering that as well. And there was not one page you could go to and say, okay, where can I do that sport? I was kind of pregnant with that idea for many years to do something about that and bring information together. In the meantime, I had a small university projects with food delivery where you could order pizza, and I learned a lot. And there was this transactional element where you say, okay, I want pizza. Then you go there, you say what kind of pizza, when and where. During my studies in Technicum, there was one teacher that came up and said, if we had idea for a smartphone app, and it sounds weird, but smartphones were quite young at that time. It was iPhone 1 or 2. And then this idea of having this platform where all the information around the different sports is in an app became a new dynamic, because I thought, okay, the app knows where you are, so it could show you what's around you. And then this element of the transactional thing of the pizza came in there as well, where you said, okay, maybe it's not just about the information, it's also about the transaction where I want to book something. And then I realized, last time I wanted to play tennis, it was actually super hard. We wanted to play at a certain time with a friend that was also coming from Tirol. We didn't know where it is, and it was just super cumbersome. So I was like, okay, not just knowing where all the centers are and what their prices are, but also knowing when they have a free court, and then booking it and paying it. So all these ideas kind of came together, and I got so excited about it that I said, okay, I don't want to give that idea to an app award. I want to create a company around it. And that's where the ball started rolling. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then quite shortly after starting, we learned about another company with a very similar idea starting.
Maybe this is a good time to transition.
True, still can remember those times very clearly. I think for us, it was a very concrete problem that we had ourselves. I'm coming from Styria, moved to Vienna for the job. And then basically we didn't know many tennis courts, and we loved obviously playing tennis, and being at work over the day, you could only play in the prime time in the evening. And there usually you needed 5 or 6 or 7 phone calls until you reach kind of a venue where you actually get the free court at a certain time in the evening. And for us, this was really annoying. And then at one point we started checking in the internet, isn't there any solution where actually this already exists, or a company that already does that? We knew, of course, Booking.com and like all the restaurant tools out there. But for ball sports, the only thing we found back then was actually Easy Sport, I remember. And that was a very, very bad solution actually in Germany. It was from HRS, the hotel booking platform. Basically, I think the son tried it himself on this project. And actually what they did is when you tried to book a court, they had the call center of HRS in the background, and they actually called the venue, checked if there's something free, and then it took like 3 minutes, and then it's actually easier to call them yourself anyway. So for us, at one point, we just thought, if this is the only alternative, then maybe this is really something that we can start solving ourselves. And at first we were just doing it next to our job because we didn't want to take the risk of going all in. And we kept working on it. Back then we were 5 co-founders on our side. Also Philip, our current CFO, was part of it. Philip was actually the first time going in full time, and then also convinced me to take the leap. And it was a big decision going all in, but one I'm very grateful for. And as Hanno said, we also didn't know about Eversports when we were founding the company. I think we were on the 16th of October 2013, and you were on the 15th, so a day earlier. We need to give you the credit for that. But we of course learned quite quickly about each other on the market. If you go to the same venues and you try to sell a similar tool, then obviously you hear about each other fast. At the beginning, we didn't meet each other. We were in a fierce battle, I would say, for the first year. Tried to outmaneuver each other. After a year, we met for the first time at a startup conference, Hanno and myself, and realized actually that there is a lot of sympathy and respect for each other, and that we also share a lot of commonalities and a similar vision. And we both knew, I think, by then that it needs a very strong and capable team. And this is actually ideal if there are more people passionate about this same idea. And we found ways how to put that together. I think it was not all romantic at the beginning, and also not so easy because there were other co-founders involved, obviously, that also went out at this point. There were investors that were interested on both sides already, but I think it showed if you really want to make something work, there's always a way, and I think that was like that back then.
It's a good thing that you mentioned that also the tough times. One thing about Eversports that's I think different from other companies is that you guys you didn't try you competed in the beginning, but then you tried to combine forces and work together. And over the last decade, you also merged with other companies. Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about why you have chosen this path and not like many other companies trying to fight against the other companies and try more like working together and making a great product together.
From my perspective, it was great to have this early example with Stefan and Philip. Philip joined a bit later, so he came back as the CFO of the company after our seed round with Point9 and after the Techstars program. But I think we learned quite early on that joining forces and having great people that are really passionate about the vision, if it's a shared vision, is something super powerful. And as said, there was quite some hatred at the beginning without knowing the person, but just because we thought, why does there need to be someone else doing the same thing at the same time? There was no one for the last 100 years, and now exactly the same time someone needs to start with that. So it felt like the universe is unfair somehow. But I think there were quite a few learnings in there, and the biggest learning was that if you discover the people behind the project or this potential enemy, and you realize that it's someone that you actually respect and appreciate and share a vision with, it is great to work together. It's someone you want, like you potentially can never be so lucky to hire someone like that in a regular hiring process. So I think with that learning, we knew that there are potentially great additions to the team in founders of companies that are burning for the same vision. That's one. And I think the other thing is that software, if done well, is very sticky in the market. So if another company has done a similar product in another market and is serving their customers well and has built a good product, it's not easy to replace it. And if you have a European vision where you want to connect sport providers with each other, and where you want to have one account that allows you to book all different kinds of sport activities, I think there is no other way than to join forces with other great entrepreneurs that have built great products out there.
Maybe it's also a bit in the DNA of Austrians. The Habsburger story, where they actually won a lot of land through marrying. But no, joke aside, I think it's what I always really appreciated is actually the entrepreneurial mindset. And I think that's very special about our company, that there are so many founders in there who founded their own company before and then at one point joined. So I think this is really special. And I think with that, you also get that everybody really kind of thinks from a company perspective and can, like, it's so much easier to get things done if people are just they show a different motivation usually if they have an entrepreneurial mindset. And I think for us in the past, that was always important, especially in situations where it was not going so well.
I think also accountability, because they were doing their own thing and knew that the life of their company depends on them. And I think the moment you also have equity in the common company, which is something we did with every founder we ever merged with, that they also get shares in the mutual company. And there are many examples from Ralf to Desi to Mark and all these founders of companies that joined with us over the course of time. Also Lucas, our CTO, he was also having a company in a similar space. I mean, that was not like a full merger that we had with other companies, but we really appreciate this founder DNA, because it takes something to take a leap and start your own thing. And I think you're made out of your own type of wood if you take that step. And it's great, at least from my perspective. I love working with entrepreneurs.
It's a lot easier for them to go out of the comfort zone and also develop themselves.
It sounds like it's exactly what you wanted to do, and having founders around you really helped. But I'm sure it was not all roses and piece of cake. Maybe also let the audience know, like, what were the challenges that you faced when starting this company, especially when merging companies?
I think I'll pick a very emotional point in time for me. It was shortly after my twins were born, and also Philip had his first son being born a couple months earlier, and we were at the end of a long fundraising period where we actually had even from an Austrian fund the commitment to invest. And it was only waiting for regulatory approval in their IC, and we basically got the information it's all going to be fine. The IC never killed the deal after the due diligence has been done. And we were basically having still a couple weeks of money on the bank, so we could pay one more salary, and then this thing needed to have been through, and after that fund went through their IC, or the fund manager that was kind of trying to push this deal through came back to us and he said, well, I'm sorry, I really have bad news. Somehow people in the IC challenged it so much that it kind of fell apart, and that they cannot take the lead in the round anymore. I remember that was super stressful, because at that point in time, we actually, everything felt like the stars are aligned. That was also the time where we started the studio manager and went in the boutique space. We really had product market fit for the first time. I mean, this funding round was also looking good. We had the lead, we had 0.9, we had other investors that wanted to commit, and then suddenly the lead investor goes out. And I remember those days and weeks that passed until we found another solution. They were really horrible, because it felt like we did everything right. We had the right investors, so we thought we had the right product in place. The market was going in the right direction. The team was perfectly there. But we would have gone bankrupt if we wouldn't have found a solution within a few days. And luckily at that time, 0.9 stepped in. I remember calling Pavel at the time and telling him, look, I have terrible news, and the lead investor is out. And then he said, well, that's good news. I mean, like, what do you mean? And he said, well, you learned before marrying that they are not the right partner for you. And then he said, but I believe in what you're doing, and I think you are on a good track. I will take over that ticket. And that was, I'm still very thankful for 0.9 and Pavel doing that at this point in time for us.
Stefan, how was it for you? Like from the starting time until now, what was like the toughest time for you? When was like a time where you really were hoping that everything was going to go right?
I mean, especially I think at the beginning, in the first years, there are so many highs and lows, and they are so intense and so frequent and exchange so fast. So there are, I think, many we could pick. I would pick a time shortly before COVID, where basically we were in the motion of going into multiple new markets, because we saw kind of it is working that we can take over Mind Body Studios in DACH. So we really wanted to do the same in France, in Spain, in Italy, in the Benelux market. And we were also hiring for that and increasing our team a lot, scaling the company. And then basically COVID hit. And that was for us really the worst possible timing back then. We were burning a lot of money, actually, and I think I definitely had multiple sleepless nights. We knew then that as we were with the back against the wall, also in terms of lifeline, how long we still had money on the bank, for how many months, we knew that we need to react fast. And this meant in this case that we needed to turn the company profitable as soon as possible. Unfortunately also back then it meant that we needed to cut the team, and this is for me personally always has been the hardest parts of the journey, when we needed to cut people from our company, because especially back then I think we really lived the value that Eversports is kind of family. That's also how we called it, and in a family it's really about unconditional love. I think we maybe also framed that a bit wrongly back then and created wrong expectations. But then also it was very hard, of course, living this value, and then at the same time you need to cut the team. So for me, this was one of the lowest points, I would say, in the journey.
I can only imagine. In your time at Eversports, have you ever had any times of doubt where you thought about quitting maybe?
I think quitting, not really, but doubt for sure. Especially at the beginning, where we haven't had a product market fit yet, and where we haven't had a product that people really loved, and that you could really feel that they would knock on your door if you turn it off. And I think this time specifically was when I still did sales myself and went to sports providers. And back then it was ball sport, because that was our main focus. And I remember we were at the Techstars program in Berlin for 3 months together. Trying to accelerate our company. And then I was actually going on a sales trip together with 2 of our employees. And we were really going from city to city and visiting the ball sports location and trying to convince them to use our software to become online bookable as a venue. And it was very, very hard to get appointments. I think we were a bit too early to the market. Most people had no interest in becoming online bookable back then. And we somehow needed to find ways how to get in. And in those sales trips, we kind of sat together in the evening, the 2 employees, Max and Marcos and myself, and we were kind of always brainstorming how can we succeed. And we were trying all sorts of things. And I remember a time in Düsseldorf where we actually decided next day we start to sell the software for free. So you can have it for free. And we tried to sell it and call venues to make an appointment, and it was still not working. They didn't even want to talk to us and want to have an appointment. And then the only hack we found actually to get to appointments is we asked them if they would like to have an interview with us, and we would like to write a blog article about them, basically. And then I was going to all sorts of local tennis clubs somewhere in Germany on the countryside and making a podcast like we do now with the owner, just as a blog article. And then I tried to sneak in the software at one point into the conversations. And when I still couldn't sell a free tool back then to some of those providers, those were definitely moments of doubt where I thought, how are we going to make this business model work? Actually, we start hiring more and more people, and the market is so limited. There are only so many ball sport venues out there, and it was really hard to think of a way how this can become a sustainable business. Luckily, that changed then when we found the product market fit with studios later on.
So back in the days, you really went from door to door and tried it?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think we both did.
We both did, yeah.
You talked about Eversports being a family. I think Eversports has a really strong culture. How would you say the culture has changed from the very beginning, where it was just like a hand of people, and to now, like we're almost like 100 people or more? Has it changed? And what can we do, or what can you guys do to ensure that company culture stays like you wanted to have it?
Well, I have to say I'm actually very happy that I don't feel that it changed a lot. So I think at the beginning the culture wasn't explicit. So I remember the first time we tried to make it explicit was a word cloud on a chalkboard in our first proper office, and there were just some words like innovative and friendly and spontaneous, and then later over time we tried to create proper statements out of it. And there are a few statements that have been untouched. Something like, we are passionate about sports. I think this has been the core motivation for most employees here. I would hope that we have a passion for what we are doing, and that we live it also outside of work. I think that goes hand in hand with turning customers into fans, or truly caring about the people we work with, and also the users that use our services. Mm-hmm. So I think that has been there from the beginning. I think this innovation mindset, we have a value around daring to explore. I think that has also always been there. I think we have been even more extreme about it at the beginning, because you're tapping a bit in the dark. And when we started, we didn't know that we were going to become a software company. Like at the beginning, we wanted to create a marketplace, and we realized we need to do software in order to have a marketplace. I think that has been there and is still there. We even emphasize it by giving our people a day off every quarter to explore projects that they want to work on, and ideally bring ideas in the regular organization. And I think the one that I'm most proud of is more or less the team spirit that we create. We have this value around having each other's back. And I think that is especially difficult across departments, and that's why I believe that bringing the team together in a nice setting, for example, by going to Kitzbühel and ski together, or by having a summer trip where we take the whole company on the lake or in the ocean and have a few days together, that creates this kind of bond that doesn't care about which department someone is in, but really unites the company as a whole. And for me, that this activities we're doing is creating a spirit where you feel like you're working with friends, or at least from what I know, many of our employees have created friendships within the workspace throughout departments. And I think it's easy to have the back of a friend. And I think, for example, that Corona example where was one of the times where I felt like that all these traits or values came together, because we basically came up with an innovative idea introducing this video streaming, and then it was about having each other's back, and the product team was creating the first version over the weekend, and then we had webinars, we had onboard, like everything, like all the departments went together, and I think all the values were kind of lived in this intense time. And I think we were the first who came out with this solution. And then suddenly also the partners started speaking about it. It kind of spread. And basically one of our biggest lows turned into one of our biggest highs. Within a week, we had more demos and deals than ever before in company history. So that's a bit the roller coaster that you mentioned. That, but then we turned, I think we turned the biggest or one of the biggest company threats in one of the biggest opportunities in a very short amount of time. And I think that's due to the culture we were establishing in the company.
Maybe Stefan, you can also maybe take us through this time of Corona, where you then decided you also gonna offer like online classes, and how did this also impact the product, and what did you guys do to make it happen, like to offer the studio owners a solution in these hard times?
I remember, I think we first heard it coming from Italy, from First Studios. I think you brought that actually from a call with a customer there. And then, we basically, of course, very quickly thought about what does that mean for us as a company and also for our customers. And those were difficult brainstorming meetings then. And we tried to very fast frame it in a way that we want to see it as an opportunity, because every threat kind of is an opportunity in a sense. And like Hanno said, I think within a weekend, I think the product and engineering team kind of sat together and put their heads together and worked actually on the first very lean version of online streaming. I think we didn't think too much back then on us as a company and how we can make the most profit out of that, or how we should build the solution in a way that it is really kind of creating benefits for us. We really thought about how can we solve this for the customers? And then very fast, we actually heard from the first customers having the idea of doing a Zoom class and stuff like that. And basically what we did in the first version is just creating a new field, letting them enter a Zoom call, letting them still book the class the same way like before. And I think on Monday afterwards, First Studio started using that. There were very emotional moments at the beginning, because when we spoke then to the teachers that gave the first online classes, they were really like, there were customers in there that had COVID or were just coming back or were isolated for weeks, and they were really like crying in the yoga class, and they were so happy that they could do yoga again with the teacher. They do normally yoga on site, and so those moments were very special. I think they were very bonding for the whole team also. And also basically manifested the value that we have turned customers into fans, very deeply into our DNA, I would say.
One thing that you, especially when you're working in product, is that you have to take care also that you stay on top of the game, right? Like you always have the latest features. What you guys at Eversports do to make sure that you can outrun the competition and then make sure that you're always unbarred, stay on top of the games?
I think as an organization, you try to create value for not just for your customers, but usually also for investors or the owners of the company, and also for the team. And I think it's critical to provide value for all three parties of that. And I think what you want is actually you want to develop the organization forward always. And I think where this starts usually is with leadership. And I think especially at the beginning, we were all very junior leaders, I would say. So there were many phases of growth we needed to go through. And quite honestly, we have been also the bottleneck of our growth at many points probably. And I think for me, it's a lot about making sure we grow faster than the organization grows, and that we are exactly not this bottleneck, and can really help all the teams underneath grow, and therefore then also provide value for all the three target groups I was mentioning before, investors, customers, as well as team.
So it's not so much about only thinking about the product, but like seeing this whole big picture.
Yeah, I personally always saw it broad on a company level and not just on product level, because I think all the parts of the organization need to fit together. In my view, the metric that best reflects that is actually NPS, which is not just the product metric, but it's a metric of how happy customers are actually with you as a partner. And in my view, it's really you can only win if you win as an organization, and not just if you are good at one specific area.
Hanno, how's it for you? Like we talked about leadership and the beginning where you were just a handful of people. Has it changed for you? Like, do you think you changed as a leader, or the way you work in the company? Like from having a small team to now having a huge, for me it's a huge team.
I think at the beginning, we as the founders, we were the team. There was no one else. I mean, we had the fancy titles from day one, but there was just no one underneath. I think we had one intern early on, but other than that, the team was us, and we were doing everything. And over time, you start to develop the departments like marketing, sales, customer care, obviously product, and then over time, these teams start to grow, and you have a layer of managers in between, and so obviously leadership changes over time from single contributor level to I lead a team to I lead leaders that lead teams. And in my case, for example, having the organizational entity of the commercial departments underneath me, it's all about working and trying to help the leaders of their departments to do the best job they can. And that's a very different task than being a single contributor. And I would totally subscribe to what Stefan said. It's a constant journey to try to be up for the task and to improve oneself while doing it. And thinking back, I think resilience is really one of the things that I feel we all learned quite well because of all the ups and downs we went through. I think if there is a hiccup in the market now, after having done it for 12 years, you know that, or I have trust that we weathered quite some storms in the past, and that we will weather the next one as well, and that there is enough innovation, resilience, and ideas on how to tackle any kind of challenge that's ahead of us.
One saying that I like is that you start, or that you should work on your company and not in your company. And I think this is definitely something that I personally needed to learn over time, because at the beginning we were just doing it, and we were very operational. And at the beginning, when we went into leadership, I personally felt very unproductive often if I didn't do tasks all the time myself. So you really need to learn actually that it brings often more value to zoom out and to work on strategic context that helps aligning everyone around the same vision, about the same vision, values, brand promises, all those things. Making those things explicit is actually also very important part of the job. But at the beginning, for me, this always felt a bit unproductive, I would say. So it was really a learning journey that actually leadership is about more than just doing it yourself or leading by example.
But we have not touched yet is like, what is the future? What can we expect from Eversports in the future? Not only like product-wise, but what do you think is still to come? Like, is there gonna be a new verticals, new sports, or do you have like something in mind if you still think back on your vision that you first had, and maybe changed over time? But what do you think is going to happen to Eversports?
I think the vision we realized hasn't changed. At one time we had this statement that we want to significantly contribute to a healthier and sportier society. I think that's still the core of what drives us. I think the way how we thought we were going to go about it changed a bit. We first had a very user-centric focus that we thought we just make the greatest experience for users, and that's how we contribute to the healthier society. And here I think our thinking has shifted more towards the providers, and we believe that we have more impact on the vision by helping to providers to create a great space and create good connections and have great communications with their users. So that's a bit a shift I see in the way how we think about the vision and the mission of the company. And going forward, I think we believe, especially also in the age of AI coming at us, that the human connection and the communication is even more important. So that's something we want to truly develop further and also be innovative and do things that other companies don't dare to or cannot do in general, by connecting users in a better way with each other, with trainers and teachers, with their studios, and helping and giving the studios the tool to have individual communication done in a very easy and intuitive way. And I think that's probably the core of how we think about the future on a holistic level. But for sure, I think depending on how far you want to see in the future, but at least in my vision for the company, there are going to be more verticals or sports that we will add over time. I think a strong core product is a foundation that we need, and I think that has been established over the last 10 years, and I think that core product is getting rounder and stronger and better with every month that passes. So I think it's quite natural that over time there are going to be more use cases and more sports that will be added. And the other thing is, I think, is countries. So we are very strong in the DACH market. As mentioned, we did look into Spain and Italy and the Benelux and the French market. So in those years where we needed to look at profitability, I think we basically focused on the markets that worked best for us. But going forward, since we are profitable and we are getting more and more successful in those markets where we are, we want to have a stronger focus on other markets again, try to get a similar level of density and a similar type of user experience at the end as well in other markets. Because I think right now, if I open the app and I look at cities like Vienna or Berlin or Munich or also even Amsterdam, I think it is already quite impressive that you see some 400 or 500 dots. And this vision I had mentioned in the beginning, that you see what's around you. I just moved from the 3rd district to the 4th. And it was actually super cool to open the app and actually see, fuck, I forgot the studios is right around the corner, click, boom. So I think that is super nice. And we want to have that work all over Europe, and then at the end of the day, also on a global scale.
How's it actually like in the towns where you're coming from? Like, so you're from Croatia. If you open your app there, do you have some dots here or?
Yeah. Frankfurt is actually in the studio space. It's looking really nice. There's quite a few yoga studios, spinning studios. I think in the racket sport where we started, there I think due to the focus shift we had more towards the studios, I think there are some other studio solutions that grew faster than us. But I think at the end of the day, it's going to be amazing. If the more we have, the easier it is for people to do sport. And I think at one point we had also this vision to take out friction, and we had, what was the saying, to pave the way. Mm-hmm. And I think this is still something that's also strong in the vision and the mission, that we say, like, every kind of friction that is between someone that wants to do sport and the one who offers it should go out at the end of the day, because sport is competing with the movie theater, with restaurants, with all kind of other activities someone could do. And if somebody has this idea, I want to do sport, and then for whatever reason it's too hard, mm-hmm. it's against what we want to accomplish. And I think to pave the way to make it easier is still exactly there.
So you're not only competing against your competitors, but also against Fedora, because people could book a pizza instead.
Yeah.
Stefan, would you like to mention something about the future of Eversports that you have in mind?
I think the friction part that Hanno mentioned, I think this is definitely very strong represented. This is what I think we focus a lot of our energy on, that doing sports becomes so easy and easier than other things, that this is really what people have an easy time building a habit around, and that they are then also the sports providers benefit from it. All the users benefit health-wise from it, and also we as a company at the end of the day benefit from it. So I think I always liked it that the goals are very, very aligned between our customers and us as a company. And I think on the SaaS side, what you can clearly see if you speak to our yoga studios, CrossFit boxes, tennis locations, what you see is that there are so many more problems that they want us to solve going forward. So the deeper you go and the more you build, the more requests you also get. So I think we will never run out of opportunities. They definitely want to have an all-in-one solution, ideally, where they just need to work with Eversports and they can send their newsletters with it, they can run their communication with it, they can automate all their processes at the studio. And also at the same time, they want their teachers and their users to have a great experience with the product as well. And there's still a lot of room and potential for becoming better as a product organization in all those things. And AI also enables now many solutions that weren't possible before, or we can going forward for sure solve certain pain points that we wouldn't have been able to solve without the new technologies coming up over the last years, but especially AI. And I personally find that very exciting, and always love if we can bring value to our customers.
Hanno, thinking back, what would be like an advice that you wish you had before you started this journey?
Co-creating a product with the potential customers and involving customers in the solution space, basically truly understanding the problem they have and basically showing them ways how we think they can be best solved, and co-creating that solution together with them. I think that laid the foundation for the success of the company that we are now having. And I would highly recommend anyone that wants to start a company and or create a product that he wants to sell into a certain group of customers, to involve the customers really early on in the product creation. And I think that's something that we learned in 2016, I think was the year. So we were already 3 years in before we kind of started to understand that. And I think that's an advice I would give myself and every other founder, to have a customer-centric product development process.
Of course, before you started, you didn't even know who your customers are going to be. So it was tough. Who's going to be the ideal product fit?
Yeah.
But Stefan, and what would you say? What would be like one piece of advice that you would like to have had before you start this journey?
I would actually build on top of what Hanno just said. And the advice that I would give myself is how important diverse perspectives are and diverse teams when building product, especially. So back then it was basically sales talking to customers and then forwarding the information. And at the end of the process, the engineers got it, and they got it in form of specifications and encoded it. But I found it very, very powerful once we learned how important it is to involve actually engineers in customer interviews, and to also have a designer in the team, because if you can just see in a product, if there was a designer involved, solutions look very, very different. And I think it's very important at the end also for our customers that diverse teams worked on the product, because it is a lot more fun and enjoyable, the experience you have in the product. So for me, diverse perspectives when building products, and also people with different backgrounds working together, collaborating to get to a great solution, I think is very, very important. And we didn't do that enough at the beginning.
I want to thank you guys for joining us in this podcast. And stay tuned for next time. Please subscribe to the podcast. EverTalks, over and out.